Hello, Reshmi. Welcome. I'm so happy that you could join me today on Energy Talks. What I always like to do to get the ball rolling is just have you introduce yourself and tell us a couple of the different modalities that you currently offer.
Awesome. Well, Kennedy, thank you so much for having me. My name is Reshmi, and I am the founder of Resh Rituals, a natural therapy studio in Markham. It's rooted in physical, energetic, and soul care. So, for the physical body through reflexology, Reiki, spinal energetics, and somatic care.
Nice. I love, I was saying earlier too that I love watching your content. There's such this presence of just like effortlessness and grace throughout everything that you do that anything you put out, I'm like, oh, that looks delightful.
Thank
So,
you.
of course, of course. So, what is it that brought you into spinal energetics? What drew you in?
So, I would have to say lived experience. And I think, experiencing the breadth or the whole spectrum of emotions and feelings and trauma and grief and love and everything. And I just remember seeing, I think it was Spinal Network that I saw on TV. It was like years ago before I even stepped into the world of natural health. And I saw it and clearly it stuck in my subconscious somewhere because fast forward a few years and I'm experiencing a period in my life where things aren't making sense, things are crumbling, and things as you know it are starting to fall away. And at the same time, on social media, I am seeing spinal energetics on the rise. I'm starting to see this work pop up on my feed. And I'm like, oh, I remember that. And so it was kind of happening simultaneously. And at one point, it kind of just came to a head where I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to, it was Tracy at the time, to receive care. And so that's how spinal energetics kind of came into my world. It was through lived experiences and just kind of meeting it at the right time.
Yeah. So, you said that Tracy B was the practitioner that you reached out. So, what was that first session like for you? I'm assuming online.
Yes, it was online. And I had reached out to her. It was after my mom had passed. And I reached out to her because I could feel that there was stuff stuck. And the information you get about spinal energetics is that it helps you really tap into a part of ourselves that we're not used to using on a daily basis. And so I reached out to her. And, what I loved about the session was that at the end of it, she's just like, that was a very big release. And we tend to see videos everywhere. And she just said, she goes, you know what, I'm going to leave that one with you because it was such a profound release. And you know how we're so used to seeing bodies moving and the flow and the wave happening of frequency through. I was, I didn't even move a single bit. But what had happened was I remember feeling the pressure lying there on my table, just the pressure building up, building up, building up, building up, building up, all the way up. And then I wailed like I have never wailed before. And the images and the thoughts that came to mind during the session were things that were tucked away that it was like I recognized myself in a different form, through memory, through thought, through emotion, and grief. And it was just, again, like I felt pressure. My body did not move, but I definitely had an internal experience with spinal energetics the first time that it left me feeling like this is something that heals people in a way that we wouldn't necessarily get in an office or that we have access to.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with me. I can tell that like it had to have been a profound experience. It seems to still like really resonate and sit deeply with
Yeah.
you. And I'm sure that there's going to be others that watch this and are like, I could use that. So, uh, with that first session, clearly it was very profound for you. What were some of the changes that you noticed in your everyday life, day to day, that sort of trickle affected, shifted after that?
I think the first thing is self compassion. I think being able to have compassion for myself in experiencing my external world in a way that related to my internal world, it I couldn't keep up with certain things. And so once I recognized that there was so much being held inside and that there was so much to work through and to feel and to release, how would we then be possible to carry on in the external world the same way, at the same pace, the same quality, if we didn't give ourselves some compassion? And so the minute I was able to give that to myself, I saw that the way I did show up in the external world was with quality. It might have been a little bit less connection. It might have been saying no to certain things, but it did give quality to the connections that I did have. And it allowed me to go at a certain pace to essentially return to not myself, but the essence of who I had become. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, granting yourself self-compassion, like that's a big shift, right? From going to like your own worst enemy to like being
You
your true
know,
best friend. That's a big,
right?
oh, give me give me chills
Yeah,
just
it's like
thinking
it's
about it.
okay. It's like you have that conversation and you're like, oh no, but I'm the one who governs how this goes. And it's okay to breathe. It's okay to take a step back. And it did and does wonders because now that's an ongoing narrative, right? That has also stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the biggest shift that that you noticed like in your internal world and with yourself. What were some of the changes that you noticed with friends, family, acquaintances around you?
I think what happens is you start to untether yourself from other people's lived experiences as well and their reactions. And so when you are going to meet another person, now I'm able to understand that they also have their internal world. And the version of them that I'm meeting today might be a different version that I meet in 3 weeks, and to give grace because I know that sometimes I show up as 1,000% and sometimes I show up as 20%, but that 20% that I showed up as was the 100% I had that day, you know?
Yeah.
And so compassion for myself, but compassion for others. And so what I'm searching for internal contentment or internal needs, I look, I try to look to myself first. And so when I'm meeting somebody else, those are the pluses. I get to experience them in whatever their essence is versus what can they do for me? What is this relationship doing for me? No, it's, hey, how are you? Happy to see you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Just kind of the expectations seem to fall away. Yeah. I can really, I can really relate
Yeah.
to that, undoubtedly. Um, so what then kept you coming back, right? Because you had this big, profound experience, and that can leave some people feeling a little like trepidatious to return
Right.
to it, right? Because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, that was big. So what what then kept you coming back and wanting to return to the table?
So I think when you realize that when you're going from one version of yourself to the other, you're no longer here, right? You've kind of broken that connection of, I choose to go forward. And so then you're like traveling along, and the only way you can go is forward and through. When you recognize that you're not meant to stay where you are, it is temporary, everything, the highs as well, that we are meant to go in forward motion towards whatever the next version of that in between stage is, like being in limbo. So you have two choices. You can go back or you go forward and you go through. If we want actual change, we're not trying to alleviate the negative, quote unquote, negative experiences in our life. We're trying to create a version of ourselves that can experience the highs and lows, but our nervous system remains in a state of ease and or acceptance. And that takes facing it first, right? And I think that there is something to be said about practitioners who are able to hold a safe and responsible space, right? I think that responsibility is a very big part of it. And recognizing that in a practitioner is important. And so going forward through the journey required one, bravery, faith, belief that where I was not where I'm going to stay. And that is also true. And so when I felt also being an emotional being, like some people are rooted in their mind, some people are rooted in their roots, some people are rooted in different parts of themselves. I am a heart centered person, and my heart felt open. That's how I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You touched on so many things that I'm just a huge fan of just like acknowledging like there's no sense in going back. I know that on my own journey, anytime that I kind of felt even one step back, I was just like,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing this. And it's like having accountability with yourself to make that decision. Like, am I going
Yeah.
to progress forward or am I going to allow
Mm-hmm.
myself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And then with those highs and lows, um, my own experience was just like my lows didn't feel as low. My lows didn't feel like I was sinking
Yes.
in the
Yes.
way that it
Exactly.
had before.
Before.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? And
It's
you're
a
able to
huge,
recognize that. That's huge.
mhm. Yeah, big shifts, big shifts. So what, this is my favorite question to ask everybody, but
Okay.
if you were to describe spinal energetics with just one word, what would that be?
Oh, girl. I'm like, can I give you a few sentences? Because,
That's that's what makes it a
okay.
tough question.
I think I would say awakening. I think that's the word. Spinal energetics is an awakening.
Yeah.
Um, and once you have that awakening, whether it's a rude awakening, whether it's truth or soft, it's like, oh, you can't go back. You recognize that, right? So I would have to say awakening.
I like the rude awakening personally, but
You're like it happens, right?
yeah,
Like we're like, oh,
yeah,
it's me. It's my
right,
journey. It's my journey. And I am and also recognition is also another one, like being able to recognize yourself in the depths of your subconscious. Like that's the other thing. And so between recognition and awakening, I think that it allows us to see that a lot of our journey is a soul journey. It's an internal journey. Um, so yeah.
right. Well, and just that clarity you get to in regards to recognition, you recognize that like I have feelings. I am not these feelings.
That's right. And it's like it's almost like, when you go to resolve conflict with a friend or somebody else, you're sitting across from each other and you're like, okay, this is how it's almost like you're getting to do that with the self because
Yeah,
so often we're standing outside we're viewing it from outside almost, and you can see yourself and the things that took place. And when we're in conflict with somebody else, we're sitting face to face, but we can't see ourselves and our participation or reflection or our
yeah,
facial, and we can't see any of that until we go inside to reflect,
right.
right? And then you recognize parts of yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Reshmi, it has been an absolute treat to be able to sit across from you and chat about this thing that we all know and love.
Yes.
If you could do me a favor, if you want
Mm-hmm.
to share your handle where people can follow you, maybe a website, and then do you offer in person as well as online, or what do you currently offer with Spinal
Sure.
Energetics?
So you can find me at Race Rituals on Instagram and www.racerituals.com. And for Spinal Energetics, yes, I do in person and online.
Amazing. Amazing.
All
Well, thank you
right.
so very much. And I look forward
Thank
to
you,
talking to you
Kenzie.
soon.
All right. Thank you.